So I was really leaning into that like tough identity of, I can do all this by myself. And then I ended up living in the country by myself and had a vintage truck. And I'm like, well, I need to know how to fix my Ford Fix or Repair Daily.
From unhoused youth to blacksmith, auto mechanic, fashion designer, and now transformational guide, Jordana Winston has lived many lives, each one forging the next.
What was happening in your life when you realized the old way wasn't working and things needed to change?
I wasn't doing the work I was supposed to be doing. I kind of just kept pushing it off to the side and like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And then it just was like, this is what I have to do. Not only for myself, but for other people. Once I started to realize and take responsibility for everything, then I started to step into like, okay, I can effect change in my own life. I don't have to remain a victim.
I mean, you would have lost your home. Did you lose your vehicle and your job? I mean, everything is gone.
And a few sentences can shift somebody's paradigm for life, That opens everything up for you. That can happen so quickly.
Welcome to Radical TV. I'm Shawna Smith. Joining me here today is Jordana Winston. Hello, Jordana. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you today?
Great. It's a beautiful fall day here.
Here as well. It is insanely beautiful. So when we're done with this, I'm going to go take a beautiful walk. It's like 80 degrees today. So it's kind of summer, kind of fall. We're not sure.
I love those in-between days.
Mm-hmm.
Jordana, you are an international best-selling author, award-winning fashion designer, and transformational guide whose life has been one long act of reinvention. Now, Jordana began her journey as a traveler and unhoused youth, riding trains and hitchhiking across the countryside, where she learned resilience, intuition, and how to trust the universe. First of all, before I go on, I have to pause there because, I live near Fargo, North Dakota. And you said you had recently, well, not recently, but you've been to Fargo.
Oh, don't discriminate me.
And we don't have to talk about it, but most people I interview have not been to Fargo. So that's really fun to hear.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. And that's not what everybody always says, but because, it gets super cold here. But you've had such an interesting life. An unhoused youth, you said, and you're traveling by train. You saw countryside all over the nation. And, you've been in fashion. And then I read that you were an auto mechanic and blacksmith.
Yeah, that was actually before fashion design because as a traveler, you kind of need to be tough. So I was really leaning into that like tough identity of, I can do all this by myself. And then I ended up living in the country by myself and had a vintage truck. And I'm like, well, I need to know how to fix my Ford Fix or Repair Daily. So I had to learn how to work on it myself. And then I just kind of fell in love with it because mechanics is so cool because it's yes or no. There's no like nuance to it. It either works or it doesn't. And I think for me at that point in my life, it was so nice to have something that grounding where I just didn't have to, there was no second guessing. It was like, this is where this bolt goes and it only goes on one way. So I kind of got stuck and I just love old cars. So I kind of got stuck in that world for a while. And then blacksmithing was also just one of those things I just like happened upon it and fell in love with it at first sight because it's like magic. It's so amazing. So I pursued it for quite some time and then came back to the childhood dream of fashion design.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a super exciting career. And it sounds to me like that's where you had a big moment of change in your life, getting into the fashion world, and you saw things that maybe surprised you, right? I mean, it's not all glamorous, right?
Yeah, no, it's really not glamorous at all in the background. Like I didn't know how to sew. So I'm like, I'll go to school and I'll learn how to sew and, learn design skills as well. But then when I got into it, I met amazing people. Tons of creative, beautiful human beings, but there's just so much waste in the industry. There's so much like textile waste, paper waste, slave labor. It's the second most polluting industry in the world. And I kind of didn't know that, and I didn't know about all the fast fashion that was coming out and polluting everything. Like we literally just send mounds and mounds of clothes overseas to be abandoned on beaches, and people are still doing YouTube hauls from Shein and like, just buying massive amounts of clothes when we totally don't need to make any new clothes. And so that kind of disillusioned me to the whole world. And I started the whole world of fashion, and I just started to try to look for ways I could be ethical within it, but it's a very uphill battle. I just didn't feel like it was worth the effort really at that point. And then coming to New York, I sort of got into the fashion world a bit and didn't really like the vibes. And went through some pretty traumatizing experiences. And then that just kind of culminated with me realizing that I wasn't doing the work I was supposed to be doing. Coaching people and helping people has always been something that people have just naturally come to me for, is help and like, helping them transmute their emotions and stuff. And I kind of just kept pushing it off to the side and like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And then it just was like, this is what I have to do. Not only for myself, but for other people. I just couldn't deny it anymore. So I succumbed. I surrendered.
And you have a unique method that you've created. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So I have read tarot for most of my life and picked it up when I was a really young girl and just was really fascinated by the idea that you can tap into like universal consciousness through reading the cards and through the symbolism and the archetypes, and really began reading heavily like every single day about 5-6 years ago. And so within that process, I started to apply it to coaching as I was learning how to coach and as I was learning how to take people through transformation. I'm like, wow, this really goes along with it. This is the journey of self, like the major arcana of the tarot take you through the journey of self. So I started to apply that to my methodology, and just helping people embody different archetypes and those energies helps them shift their identity from the inside out so that they're living their life from a more empowered place. Sometimes just borrowing that energy until they can really integrate it and embody it and use it on a daily basis. Sometimes we just have to borrow. It's like that pretend factor. We borrow something until it becomes us. And so I developed that process based on the major arcana of the tarot.
What are some of the common obstacles that people face when they try to implement this on their own?
I would say mostly it's the certainty and the holding on to that energy long enough. It's one thing to be like, oh, I feel amazing and abundant, and then something happens or you get a bill or, something shifts your energy from the outside, and then being able to maintain that sense of stability energetically is really what helps us manifest. Because if we have these big visions, we can hold on to the vision and make it, really feel like it's coming true. But then life will throw a curveball and you're like, oh no, maybe it's not true, and we kind of lose our way. So I think just staying centered and focused and aligned with your vision is the biggest challenge, because it's practice. It's a daily practice. It's a moment by moment practice. It's not just something that we can, I checked that box. Now it's like, I shifted. It's going to stay forever. It's a practice. It's like meditation.
Yeah, it really is. What would you say is the biggest lie that your target audience has been told that you've discovered is completely false, Jordana?
That they don't have power. That it isn't really all up to us. I think we're trained to think that the power is outside of us. God is this like figure or energy that's outside of us, but truly I believe that it's within us, and that everything comes from within, and we have the power to create our reality 100% if we're committed to that, and if we stay in that knowing that we're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever believe that lie yourself?
Oh yes, definitely. I spent a lot of years in a victim mindset. A lot of things that I went through on the street and prior to the street, why I ended up there were not easy things. And I've had a lot of challenges in my life. I lost both of my parents young. I went through Hurricane Katrina. Homelessness was not easy. A lot of the things were just very challenging. I raised my daughter by myself. And there are times when you can be like, why me? Why is this
Mm.
happening to me? Well, what did I do to create this? What mindsets are creating this reality? Once I started to realize and take responsibility for everything, then I started to step into like, okay, I can effect change in my own life. I don't have to remain a victim.
I got goosebumps as you said some of that. What's the real cost when people believe this lie?
Loss of opportunity. Watching my father was a really creative person. He was this great artist, a great woodworker. Like he made beautiful furniture by hand, but he spent the majority of his life working for other people. And by the time he was in his 50s, he finally had bought machinery. He'd bought all the things he needed to like just start making fine furniture at home and not be working for other people anymore. And then he died. And had he not waited, had he believed earlier, had he had the alignment with his vision, he would have been able to create more pieces. Like he did create, he left beautiful work for us to enjoy and to cherish, but he he wanted to do so much more. And it was really challenging to watch him come to that realization that I'm out, I don't have the time now to do it.
Hmm. Wow. Take me to your lowest point. What was happening in your life when you realized the old way wasn't working and things needed to change?
Oh my gosh, I have those so often. I mean, I feel like I can't do like there's so not just I okay, well one really big one was Hurricane Katrina because I had an 11-month-old daughter. I had, a vintage truck that I loved. I had another car. I had a beautiful apartment that I loved. I was stable. I was, making enough money for my family and felt really good about where I was at in life. And then whoosh, it all got flooded away. And I was suddenly a refugee living in Texas, like at the whim of, whatever. I didn't have, I was waiting on assistance and like the federal government to come through and like all these things were out of my hands. And it was such a reset moment. I really felt like I was suddenly like 17 years old again and I had no stability and I just had to start from square one again. And that was very low. It was very, very, very difficult to navigate, just like postpartum, even, and raising a small child and navigating that world is challenging enough in itself. But I was very isolated and separated from like the life I knew as well. So it was really hard. And I turned to yoga. That made me go into yoga and learn how to like start to move that energy through my body and to heal.
Hmm.
So it turned into something good, but that is kind of the way that I deal with these low moments. It's like they're a springboard because once you go that
Hmm.
low, you can't, there's only one direction you can go from there, is up.
Yeah, right. I mean, you would have lost your home. Did you lose your vehicle and your job? I mean, everything is gone in a hurricane, right?
Yeah. I had 3 cars and I lost all of them.
Wow.
It was just like, and so much stuff, so many mementos, like treasures I'd held
Mm.
on to because we weren't allowed to go back, to get our
Yeah.
things out and everything molded. I lost a dog. I had 2 dogs and
Oh.
lost one of them for good. And then one of them was able to track down 6 months later and be reunited with him. And it was the miracle.
Mm.
So, and it was on my birthday. Like the universe is magical if you just trust it and are patient with it.
That you found your dog on your birthday?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I didn't actually find it. Somebody else like did all this back end work for me and like put up signs everywhere and like just really
Wow.
never gave up. And yeah, she found him on my birthday. It was so amazing.
Oh, man. What finally made you say enough is enough and to make the change?
That would have been being here in the fashion world, like to make the change into doing personal growth work with people. I lost one of my friends to suicide and watching him struggle just highlighted my own stuff, we were sort of mirroring each other in our friendship. And it just really started highlighting areas of my life where I was still really stuck and really circling like negative mindsets and stuff. And I just, after that experience, it just was like, this has to stop. Like all of this has to change and can change, And so
Mm-hmm.
I use his spirit as big inspiration.
Hmm. So how did you stumble upon your discovery of what you have now?
Practice, patience, and just being with myself and really allowing myself to forgive myself for my entire like past of all the things that I didn't do perfectly or were places where I, had great failures or great mistakes were made. Just forgiving myself and learning how to love myself again the way that I was before all of these things, before society and life happens to you. That
Mm-hmm.
like true spirit love.
How quickly did you start to see results for yourself?
Pretty immediately, there's that Carl Jung says, until we make the unconscious conscious, we let our lives be lived for us and call it fate or something like that. And it's like as soon as you have that awareness of like this way that you're being or this way that you're thinking or this mindset that you're inhabiting, once you're aware of it, you kind of can't keep repeating it you know without feeling kind of foolish. It's like I know I do this thing, so now I can stop. So it happens really fast, like I can have conversations with people now and like they don't go back to the same things anymore because they have this awareness now. And so
Mhm.
why repeat the pattern?
Mhm. Yeah, that downward spirals you, right?
Hmm.
And so when did you realize that your own personal transformation needed to become your mission to help other people?
It was before I realized that I needed to do it for myself. Like it was always this thing. Like I'm like the kind of person that people come up to in the grocery store and tell their life story to.
I can see that.
I, so I just couldn't really get away from it, no matter what
Mhm.
industry I was in, people were coming to me with their problems. And so it was before I realized how much work I needed to do. The work on myself was more so I could show up correctly,
Mm.
And that's still the
Mhm.
work is like, how do I keep working on myself enough that I can show up as a person who can actually help so I can serve. And
Mhm.
yeah, so it was always there. I just was like, I don't want to do that. But I do it anyway. So,
Who specifically do you feel called to serve?
entrepreneurs, I just love people who like have unconventional ideas and big visions and want to live outside of the box, and want to do their own thing. And that is so challenging. It's like 90% of it is mental. And I mean, 90% of the game of life is mental. And I see them as these visionaries. I see them as like, these people that are willing to break the norm. And it takes so
Mm.
much courage and so much
Mm.
bravery. And I just want to celebrate them and help them and be there
Mhm.
for
Good.
them. And I've just always kind of worked for myself. So I resonate. I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Is there anything that breaks your heart about what you see happening in your industry currently?
People giving up, not being able to see it through. It's a much longer process than you would think. And there's so much more involved in especially purpose driven entrepreneurs that have this big vision that is to help people. Being able to stay aligned with that vision is so challenging. There's so much happening in the world and it's so easy to get thrown off track and to get distracted and lose sight of where you're actually going. And then if you lose sight long enough, you just give up because it's so challenging. There's so many aspects of it, and the visibility and the sharing and the being online and all those things. It's just a lot to handle by yourself, and the isolation, the loneliness of it, I think
Hmm.
it takes a lot of people out of the game before they even get that toehold.
What would the world look like if everybody knew what you know?
Amazing. I mean, I live in a reality where the world is really amazing. And people really do help each other and people really do affect great change. I really can see when one person is kind to another person, that ripple effect, that person is kind to another person, and that ripple effect goes outward. And so that's what that world looks like. It looks like people that are using their intuition and aligning with people that are beneficial to their lives and they're beneficial. It's like a reciprocal relationship and you're helping each other evolve. And you're forming a greater sense of community and unity with each other. Like there is no divide between people. These disasters and these hard things I've gone through have shown me that everybody hurts the same way. Everybody has the same desire to take care of their family and to, be a good person for the most part, kind of whatever part of the world you're in and whatever industry you're in. It really doesn't matter. I know people that people would deem as like horrible people who just want to take care of their families. And that universal quality isn't divided by race or income or, social status. It's just a universal thing. So if we all can focus on that and focus on healing nature, we can change the entire paradigm that we're existing in.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. When someone goes through your complete method, what transformation can they expect?
A greater sense of joy and just empowerment. Like it's pretty incredible watching people go through, sometimes it takes a session and sometimes it takes a week or two. And then suddenly there's just this like juice. Like they just have this like good vibe again. And like they just feel excited about life and they see they see things as opportunities. They're no longer like, oh, this challenge is limiting me and I'm in a victim mindset. They're like, no, I see that thing. It's growing me. It's confronting my fears. It's making me want to, be a bigger person. And I'm picky with who I work with. I pick people who are visionaries, who have something greater beyond themselves. I'm not really interested in helping entrepreneurs gain financial wealth for the purpose of wealth. It's always like, what is before that, honestly? Like, what are you really trying to do? Because the wealth is a side effect of the great work. Like, so watching people just stay aligned and just be able to stay aligned on a sustained basis throughout the day, no matter what gets thrown at them, it's incredible.
Yeah. Can you share a specific story of a client who exemplifies this transformation for us?
Yes. And I won't use her name, but she was this lovely woman who came to me just like at rock bottom, like just like, oh my God, my whole life is falling apart. I have a son. I'm, by myself. I'm a single mother. And she just was having such a hard time and reached out to me and we started working together. And within a couple of weeks, it was just magnificent. Like she just shifted everything and went from like, crying in every session and it's like releasing all this stuff, which is part of the process, right? To just being like, oh my God, this is happening. And I met this person and this person is giving me this opportunity and this is happening for me. And like everything just started clicking into place. And now she's living her mission. She's helping people. She's in social work. So she's now helping people through the process that she was herself going through. And that's the beauty of it. It's like you heal that part of yourself and then that part of yourself is the healing that you get to offer other people. So she's one of my shining examples of,
I guess so,
of a transformation.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned a few weeks and even a couple sessions. Is that pretty typical or what is kind of the average time frame?
Well, sometimes I feel like I definitely like because I've had discovery calls where people never come back because I just like give them like all the goods, and I'm like, and they're just like, click, and they just get it and they don't need me anymore. So that's a beautiful thing, right? It's not necessarily great for my longevity as a business owner, but it's really awesome that it really can be that fast. Like a few sentences can shift somebody's paradigm for life, but a good conversation and a good, like, here's what I see, here's where you're attached and you can just let go. And that's that opens everything up for you. That can happen so quickly.
Yeah. What's possible for someone who commits to your approach?
everything, whatever they dream of.
And is there someone that you, who is your ideal client to work with personally?
Someone who kind of is at that breaking point, like kind of is at that point where they have to do something. Like things are so wrong that they have to change something so that they're really, really highly motivated to do it. And they're really ready to just take what I say at face value and like take what we discover together at face value and then flip it into something that works for them. Because if you're too blasé about it or you just aren't really ready, for that shift, then it does take a long time. People are going to keep coming back to the same pattern over and over again. But it's the ones that are just like, nope, I'm so done with this. I might not know how to be done with it, but I'm done. And those are the people that I'm just like, okay, you're like raw material. Let's cut away everything that isn't you and then, just help you with this new identity and you're golden, we can do anything.
I love everything about this. What can people expect when they work with you directly?
High hilarity. I like to laugh. I like to make the process fun because then we learn faster. And really being taken to the edge of your comfort zone. I'm not going to babysit people, and I'm not going to not call out a pattern if I see it, and not highlight an area where there's something that really could shift and that really is a paradigm shifting move for someone to make. So being confronted, by your edges and by your comfort zone for sure.
Mm-hmm. And how can people find you if they want to learn more and want to work with you? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
JordanaWinston.com. Or I'm on all social media as Jordana Winston also. So
okay.
I'm easy.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And what has changed in your life or your business since you started working with the radical company that you did not expect?
So much. I mean, this is such an incredible group of people. And honestly, it was a very spur of the moment decision for me to jump in and work with them. And it's kind of Jason was like, "Can I curse on this show?" He was like,
"Yes, I think you can."
He was like, "We're gonna have fuck tons of fun," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I like that. So that's the kind of. At that point, I was just, it's not always fun to be isolated and be a solopreneur. It's actually kind of a grind and it's kind of boring. And you're like, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing again. So I think the fun aspect of it, and to just be challenged by being in a group of go-getters and a group of people who are really going after what they want. That's, I learned so much, from the calls and just from being in proximity to these people. So that was the unexpected benefit. And I guess just who I've become in the process, you can't really see ahead. Sometimes I can see ahead in the future, but I didn't really pinpoint oh, this is where I'm going to be, but where I'm at right now versus where I was when I started working with them is pretty profound on every level of my life. It's made me, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, so it's made me look at each individual relationship and each individual way of being in my life and be like, oh, okay, that parlays with this is, I have to change this in order to change that. So I think just that holistic level up.
Mm-hmm. And if someone was considering the Radiverse, what would you tell them about your experience?
I would say you're going to have fuck tons of fun. I just keep it simple.
That is so funny. I love everything about that. Fabulous. I guess I had one more question just for myself. When the Hurricane Katrina, how long was that process? I mean, I can't imagine having a young child and having none of that. And that was not a quick turnaround, was it? I mean,
no.
I was just curious myself because
I would say maybe some days I'm still working on it. Even like
Uh-huh.
it really it really just changed everything because it didn't only shift my own life. It like watching that happen to so many other people and the way that the government responded and didn't respond and like just the whole political scene around it. That was really shocking and really heartbreaking and really just, and I was there, like I rode out the storm. So I was there on the ground and saw this thing like this happen in real time.
Wow.
And you just kind of can't come back. It's like the illusion is completely shattered. Like no one is coming to save you, actually.
Mhm.
You're on your own. And you might as well like be really proactive in your life and figure it out because that's what we had to do. They didn't come for a week. The feds didn't come down there for a week. So it was volunteers that were saving people, going by boat to boat, from house to house, saving people. And that was the community stepping up, and not the community that you'd expect either. Like, we stayed in a school one night because our house was flooding, and it was like the neighborhood drug dealers that were going out and getting diapers for people and bringing back food and bringing back batteries. So we had electricity and generators and like serving their grannies and their mothers and their community, in the way that they were able to, they were the young ones, so they're able to go out and loot. But really, it's like none of these things were going to last anyway. We had to make do with what we had because people didn't have anything.
Mhm. Wow. And to see it in that kind of mass, with the masses like that, and to see others and wow, what a miracle to see people coming together like that.
Yeah, it was pretty magical. I mean, they had a kitchen set up, they were feeding everybody, like everybody was taken care of. And this was grassroots on the ground, just neighborhood people like, yep, this is what needs to be done. And
Mm.
just taking care of each other. But it was very heartbreaking too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we were right
Yeah.
down the street from a hospital that was just abandoned. They left all of the old people in the hospital to die because they didn't, like, without electricity, without ventilators, without anything, because the ground floor of the hospital flooded and I guess everybody else decided to leave. So we ended up like helping them move these people into helicopters and get them out of, people were bringing them from the hospital, and then we met them on this high ground that was down the street from our house, and we're loading everybody up and getting them to safety. I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't just go away.
Mm-mm. No, that's something it's imprinted.
Hmm.
Mm. Wow. Uh, Thank you for joining us here on Radical TV today. It was such an honor to meet you and so fun to chat with you. And I know that the people who work with you will definitely have tons of fun. No doubt.
That's Thank you so much. This was so fun. I'm super happy that I was able to do this. I appreciate it.